Welcome back to On the Table. On the Table, we're talking about today bankruptcy and wiping out student loans. And joining us on this final segment is Michael Jafar, an attorney who specializes in bankruptcy, among other things. Michael, good to see you. Thanks again for joining us today. So here we are. We kind of established what happened. You know, the Biden administration lifted this loophole that basically allows people to go now file for bankruptcy and wipe away their student loan debt. And then we talked about who's eligible for bankruptcy. Any more on that did you want to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, so it's a really streamlined process now. So when you file bankruptcy and you have student loans, right? If you're eligible, you can file that separate adversary proceeding, like Congress allows you to do so. And on the other side, you're not going to get this avalanche of just blockages by the Department of Education. The Department of Education is the entity that would block you from wiping out your student loans. They have announced on November 17th that they have streamlined the process. Hey, if you want to wipe out your student loans in bankruptcy, you file this adversary proceeding, here's a form. Fill out this form. As long as you qualify, we are not going to get in your way. We're going to allow you to wipe out your student loans, at least partially, but mainly in full, right? And so your viewers are probably wondering, give me an example, right, of somebody who'd be eligible. The Department of Education actually gave examples, right? And they said, hey, there's some things that are not only examples. If you qualify, if you're one of these people, we're not going to get in your way. An example is you have a protracted period of unemployment, of not working. If you have a chronic illness, if you never got your degree, right? Or if you've been in an extended repayment status which is, hey, usually I haven't been able to pay my student loans in 10 years. I've been in forbearance, I've been in deferment. They've given you in their guidance to their attorneys, and which was published online, guidance on, hey, specifically, these people, we're going to let them wipe out their student loans in bankruptcy. If they can't afford to pay them and they are eligible with these criteria, just don't get in their way. And it's amazing. This is the way it should have always been, Roop. It should have always been that way. But through a series of laws and cases that were decided from 1987 to the late 90s, it just turned into like this feeding frenzy of, judges, Congress, the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, just being obstructive to anybody's ability to wipe out their student loans. I'll just tell you. So if you were an adult back in the early 70s, late 60s, you remember a time when you could file bankruptcy and you could wipe out your student loans.
Right.
You remember a time. Well, those people are in their late 70s now. So most people don't remember a time when you could throw up your hands and say, you know what, it's time for me to consider bankruptcy. Let me sit down with an attorney. Let me see if this is the right option for me. People don't remember a time when you could do that. Right now, people know a time when you will call a professional to help you with your debt, and that professional will tell you, I'll help you with all these other debts, but not your student loans. Your student loans are going to stay with you for the rest of your life. They never go away. Even taxes that you owe to the government, they go away after 10 years. Your student loans will never go away. They'll be with you for the rest of your life until the grave.
It's like a bad cold that never goes away.
It never goes away. They can garnish your tax refund. They can garnish your wages. They can take anything. They don't even have to go to court, right? The Department of Education doesn't even have to go to court to get an order to take your tax refund, to take money from your paycheck. They could just do this for the rest of your life. Now the guidance from the Department of Education and the Biden administration is, hey, we're going to take a different approach here. When somebody files bankruptcy, if they file this adversary proceeding, we're going to let them move on.
Talk about what happens to someone who becomes liberated because of this process. Someone who's just drowning in debt. They can't afford to hardly put food on the table. They have all this extra debt. They're paying 28%, 100% interest, whatever. And out of these student loans, they file for bankruptcy. They wipe out their student loans. What happens to them in their lives?
They get a fresh start. So in that example, so I give the example of my friends. Some people won't qualify to buy a stick of gum, right? If you need a car for work, right? You need to get a reliable car to get to your job. You want to live a dignified life.
Sure.
When you walk in, here's what happens behind the scenes. The car company does what any business would do when they're extending credit. They're going to pull your credit reports. And they're not going to see the credit reports you see. They're going to see the credit reports that they see, something completely different. It's a behind-the-scenes credit report. Most people don't know that. And they're going to look at it and say, this person owes this bank, that bank, that bank. They're behind on their student loans. They owe NELNET, the Department of Education. We need 28% interest before we lend them this car. In the example you gave of what happens to the life of somebody who gets a fresh start, wipes out their debt. Well, here's what the car company sees. This person filed bankruptcy 18 months ago, so they're not eligible for a long time. They wiped out all their debt. This person is a much smaller credit risk for us than the other person who makes the same amount of money, same age, same amount of kids, same amount of dependents, but that person hasn't filed bankruptcy before, and they owe all these creditors, and any of these creditors at any moment could start taking their paycheck, taking their tax refund. They might not be able to make their car payment, and we don't want the car back. We're selling you the car.
Sure.
We don't want to repossess this car. It's very expensive for us.
So the person one is the one who has all that debt that they're walking into the car dealership with. The second person has filed for bankruptcy. They don't have any debt around them. So the number of hands trying to grab at the pockets of those who are filed for bankruptcy, there's no one there.
I'm the car.
So the car company gets your exclusive audience.
Your undivided attention.
Yeah.
And that's the type of life that people want. And I use the car example. You can insert any example of any extension of credit, but I use that example because, if you're a working person, you have to drive to work. Right. You have to drive you need a car. You can't always take a bus to go to work. And a lot of employers won't hire you unless you have reliable transportation. So I use that example, and my heart breaks when I see, especially when I see single moms. Those are the ones that break my heart the most, because you're already dealing with a difficult situation. Now you have the Department of Education taking your tax
breathing
refund,
down your throats.
Breathing down your throat. It's not their fault. It's kind of, maybe it's their fault a little bit, but not mainly their fault. Is they're following the law, and they're following their interpretation of the law, and they're told, hey, here's a number on a spreadsheet. This person here, XYZ, Joanna Smith, she owes $85,000 in student loans. We don't care if she got her degree. We don't care if she was, whatever. We have to take her tax refund because this computer says we have to, And if she calls us for relief, we can't answer the phone calls, right? So in the example you gave, people who are doing this in good faith are going to be able to get a fresh start. And for the first time in decades. And this is why a lot of people are excited about what happened on November 17th.
So now let's help people. This is the great thing about streaming is here we are with all the time in the world really to talk about this and unpack this. Give someone an example. What's the first thing they do? You just convince someone who's watching, hey, I want to go file for bankruptcy and then I want to wipe out my student loans. What's the first step?
It's a no-brainer. Don't be scared. Pick up the phone and call a local attorney. Get a free consultation. Every attorney, I haven't heard of an attorney who doesn't do free consultation. Call somebody close to you, somebody who knows your community. Ask for a referral from a friend or family, but open your ears and keep an open mind and listen. Just talk to that person. Give that person information. If you're talking to his assistant, ask to speak to the attorney himself, right? I can assure you, this is the number one topic in the world of the attorney industry right now that every attorney around the country is excited about and studying about. So you're not going to be telling them about this for the first time. This isn't some program that you're hearing about and then you have to tell the attorney about. Every lawyer knows about it. There are conferences across the country now where lawyers are traveling and speaking to one another about it. The first thing you do is call an attorney, get a consultation, keep an open mind, and tell that person your fact pattern, how much money the attorney's going to ask you, how much money do you make? How much money do you owe on your student loans? Who do you owe it to? Have you filed bankruptcy before? Sit down for 30 minutes, talk to that person and get their advice and then make your own decision on whether or not this is right for you.
Would an attorney look at the person, even though that's their business, and say, yeah, I don't think you're really eligible, you're not the best person to file for bankruptcy?
If you get an opinion that in any way, shape, or form doesn't square, I can tell you those lawyers, these are private actors, they want you as a client.
Sure.
If a lawyer tells you I can't take your case, that would be rare, but that would be a red flag. Get a second opinion if two people tell it to you, because there's some people who are not eligible, somebody who just filed bankruptcy, or somebody who owns $1 million house in their name, or somebody who was caught doing fraud. I mean, there are some people who are not eligible,
and they know who they are because they have the $1 million house or they have all that extra money.
And you'll know if you're watching this broadcast. You know if you're. It's just like if you're in a car accident and you call 10 lawyers and 10 lawyers told you, no, I can't take your case. You know that you don't have a case. You'll know that. But if you feel that you cannot handle your debts. Look, if you're making $100,000 a year, you have $9,000 in credit card debt, $20,000 in student loans. You know what? Probably just pay that stuff off.
Sure.
Right? You're doing well, right? But if you're sitting down watching this broadcast and you feel that you are constricted, you make $70,000, $80,000 a year, but you have 5 kids. You have a handicapped kid at home. Right? There's some people who have kids who have special disabilities, right? Pick up the phone, call a lawyer, get a consultation. If you don't like what you hear, even if you like what you hear, get a second opinion, and then make an educated decision. This is not difficult, by the way. It's not complicated.
How long would it take from the consultation until someone can actually file and then file for bankruptcy?
People can file within a few days after the consultation. Typically, with the documents that lawyers ask for, it takes about 3-4 weeks.
And then does it kick in right away, or does it take
the relief takes effect immediately. When you file bankruptcy, you get something called the automatic stay. The relief takes effect on day 1.
Got it.
Right? So anything that any garnishment, anybody repossessing anything from you,
all that stops.
Has to stop the minute you file.
Well, this is really helpful. Michael Jafar, opening the way to a conversation perhaps people can have at their kitchen tables where they're talking about filing for bankruptcy and then wiping away their student loans, something that you perhaps may be interested in. You heard Michael say it, contact an attorney first, sit down with them. But Michael, we thank you for your time today.
Good
to see you.
Thank you so much.
We call it On the Table. You know what? We're going to be talking coming up in just a few days here to an IRS expert and a financial expert about how not to get sticker shock when it's time to file for taxes. We're going to take a look at that next time on the Table. I'm Roop Raj. Have a great day. Share this video if you like it.